Hi there, friends. Welcome to Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe. I am coming to you live from my Stampin' Peace studio on Wednesday, March 15th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Gosh, it's been a whole week since I did a Facebook Live. I've been doing some traveling and visiting this month, this past weekend, well, into this week. I was visiting a demonstrator friend and somebody I do some training with, so we're accountability buddies also. But Anne Granger lives in Dorchester, Ontario, Canada. So I had planned to go Friday through Monday. However, they had a snowstorm on Friday. So I waited till Saturday. Drive was great. It was beautiful. It was a perfect day for driving. Low over 5 hours from my house to hers. And then I came back yesterday. So instead of Friday to Monday, I did Saturday to Tuesday. Got home in the afternoon, put my PJs on, and I worked for several hours and went to bed early. And then I had a full day of working today. I've got 3 fun cards to share with you this evening. And they all use the Conversation Bubbles bundle. It's lots of fun. You can just mix and match and create till your heart's content with this. And of course, it comes with several sentiments, but I know we also have great sentiments from some of our other stamp sets that would work as well. I do want to talk for just a moment before we start our projects about a color refresh. As you know, our in colors are around 2 years at a time. This year, ending soon, is Polished Pink, Pale Papaya, Evening Evergreen, Soft Succulent, and Fresh Freesia. So we anticipate that those will be going out, will be retiring. However, as usual, and we'll get 5 more new in colors. So we always have 2 sets of in colors, one on its first of 2 years and the other on its second of their 2-year period. But in addition to that, this year we are having a color refresh. For those of you who don't know what a color refresh is, that's when Stampin' Up! Looks at all of our color families, the brights, neutrals, regals, subtles, in addition to our in colors, and they may start swapping out some colors, bringing in some new ones, perhaps even bringing in some retired in colors from the past. So at this point, I can tell you we are expecting Pretty Peacock and Lost Lagoon to come back as returning favorites. Other than that, I have no idea. I don't know which colors will be retiring. I don't know what kind of new colors we'll be getting. I do trust, though, that I'm going to love all of the colors because Stampin' Up! Does work very hard to stay on trend. So I think we're going to see some great colors to come. But this is my warning to you. Since we do not know until March 29th what kind of colors are coming and going, I highly suggest to you, if you have favorite colors, to buy the other products that you don't have for that color. For example, and Polished Pink is expected to go out because it's a retiring color, but we'll see. They might bring back some of the in colors. But for example, Polished Pink. If you have the ink pad, but you love that, go ahead and get the re-inker. Get the Stampin' Blends that go with it. Any ribbons or embellishments that coordinate with it, get them now. If you want more of the cardstock in that color, get it now. The reason I say that is once Stampin' Up! Announces what the retiring colors will be, some of those products may sell out very, very, very quickly, okay? So if you don't want that to happen to you, if you want to avoid disappointment, be sure to order those products sooner than later. I think if you wait until that last chance list comes out and the color refresh is announced, you may end up disappointed if things sell out very quickly. So I'm just gonna give that warning to you now and strongly suggest that you take care of that, kind of take inventory of your favorite colors and see what you have, see what you need. If you buy the re-inker for your ink pads, you will have that ink pad like long into the future, many, many years. So that's the best way to guarantee that you can continue using those colors that you love. I was gonna, and I just lost it. Thought of something else and I just lost it. Oh well, it may come back to me as we're working on tonight's projects. Let me flip my camera around now and we'll get started making cards with the Conversation Bubbles bundle. And while I'm flipping my camera, would you please share this live video and invite others to join us on this Wednesday evening? Many of you may have noticed while I've been having these weekend travels and things, plus I still have my blogging intensive class going on, but I have taken a little bit of a step back from my business, so you haven't seen me on Facebook Lives and doing quite as much in the last few weeks. I'm also reconfiguring things for my business. But I just kind of reached a point where it was really important for me to take some time for myself this month. So I just want to say thank you for being so accommodating and understanding of that, because I feel like my spirits are being lifted and a little more relaxed and little less anxious, so it's all good, and I appreciate your support always. So here is the Conversations Bubbles bundle. It's packed full of pieces and parts, isn't it? 16 stamps, 18 dies. It seems a little bit overwhelming. And you know I don't like you to be overwhelmed. So I went ahead and made these templates. And the reason I made these templates is basically we have basically 3 different kinds of dies in here. One set of dies, basically these 5, cut out an outline plus the centerpiece. So you get both a frame and a solid piece to work with. And then the other dies are cutting out just plain shapes. A few of these you'll see do complement what we have, like the flower stamp and the flower die, the stars, okay? And then this last one basically is just an edge. It's a curved edge with that little arrow, or I don't know what to call that. Do you know what to call it? The little bubble conversation part. But it leaves the other end with a straight edge, and it's only 3 3/4 inch long. So today, and doesn't this look like, this reminds me of a Batman kind of thing. Pow, wow, that sort of thing. So if you have any little boys who love Batman, or I suppose big boys and girls too, you might come up with a really clever card using that for a fun Batman card. But when I put these this video up on my blog in a few days, I will be sure to include the templates. I just think this is real helpful to know which dies allow you to use the frame and the solid piece, and which are just center pieces, okay? Just solid pieces, alrighty? So let's get started. For this first card, I am using my large or standard size Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And then I'll switch to a smaller one for other parts. So I have cut this polished pink 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Okay, 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I'm going to use this long die. And remember, it only cuts out this edge on the bottom. Okay. Oh, Deb, you're right. Pow, biff, zap. I think that could be really fun. I really don't have too many little boys around. Although my son-in-law, I think, would appreciate that. Okay. Whoops. I just dropped the die on the floor. Let me get it to make sure I don't lose it. But this is what you get, what I get when I cut that out. All right. So just an interesting little something to add to your cards. So I'm going to add this to my basic white thick cardstock base. And then we're going to die cut some of the other things. I think that looks pretty straight. And I've got this. I'm going to go ahead and stamp first. And while I'm just going to, and you know that on white cardstock and vanilla cardstock, sometimes it does take the ink a few seconds to dry, whereas on other cardstocks, the ink dries pretty darn quickly, almost instantaneously, I would say. So I'm going to let this dry for a moment and bring in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which I just love. And I've got some black cardstock, and I'm looking at my sample here to make sure I pull up all the right pieces. This one, and you can mix and match. You can pick whichever ones you like. There's certainly a large assortment. Oops, I think go with that one. And I think that's pretty good. I think that's all. Actually, I don't need this one. I'm going to cut it anyways, just because it's there. And if I'm cutting out the 3, I might as well cut an extra. And you'll find that maybe when you're creating with these, you maybe want the frame or you want the solid piece, but I would say hang on to the other pieces. That's what I did after I made all my samples. And I'll be able to use these extra pieces on a future project. Now, some of these that cut the frames, you'll want to pay attention and be sure to poke those frames out. Even if you're not using the frame, be sure to poke it out, because you don't want it in there for the next time you're die cutting. All right. And that one. Okay. And I'm also going to die cut my sentiment now with the die that coordinates with that stamp. So let me pull all this back in. And I believe it's this large one. It also reminds me of the old TV screens. This one in particular, if you cut off that little triangle at the bottom. Does anybody see that? That little TV from back in the day, or big box TVs. All right. So now, oops, I want to poke that out. I'm not using this white frame on this card, but I do want to save it to use on a future project. All right, so now let's put our card together. And basically what I did for this card was I just took the pieces I cut out, and I started playing with them. Just mixing and matching, moving things around. And I also decided for this card, it was okay for me to go off of the polished pink cardstock, let some of these pieces hang over a bit, just to make it a little more interesting. And go do some of these dies too, you'll notice actually have some designs that are imprinted on the frame when you cut it out, which is kind of interesting. I'm using my multi-purpose glue for this. You just need the slightest little bit. If you're not comfortable using the multi-purpose glue on these narrow frames, you might consider using some adhesive sheets. Again, just play with all those die cut pieces, mix and match them any way you want. Many times in the past, you've probably seen me make black and white cards with a punch of color. You can think of these cards today as black and white with a punch of color. And then, of course, you can do the same, choosing one of your own favorite colors that you think looks good with the black and white. So this weekend, I will be scrapbooking with some friends and continuing to work on Andrea and John's wedding scrapbook. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Okay. And here's my finished card. So what do you think? Pretty quick and easy, right? And you can see how simple it was to just play around with the different dies. What do you think? Should we add a little something more to it? You could always add some kind of embellishment like the black and white dots. I think I'm going to use the black and white gingham ribbon and make a little bow. So when I was at Anne's in Ontario the last 4 days, we did some fun networking. She taught me some things on the computer that I didn't know how to do, and we figured out something else together, and I helped her with a few things that can help her in her business. So it's always fun to do that. But I also had the pleasure of meeting some of her team members. And none of them I had knew before. So that was really fun. It was really, like I said, just a pleasure to meet those people. We just had so much fun talking and laughing, and it was a really good time. And it was so nice of them to take time out of their Sunday to come over to Anne's to meet me. Tony, I agree. Just kind of crazy fun card, right? You can do anything with it. I'm trying to think, where do I want this? I kind of like it right here up along this frame. Is that the spot I want though? Or do I want it more over there? Or down here? I'm going to do that. So what do you think? And it really is quite easy, isn't it? It's one of those cards that looks like, ooh, that took some time, but it really is quite easy to make. All right, let's move along to our next card. Remember, this is a giveaway, or maybe I didn't say that, but I am giving away tonight's cards. There will be 3 to give away, so hang on till the end. Here's my second card. Quick flash. So this time I'm using polished pink as my card base. I have a piece of basic white 5 1/4 by 4 inches. This is just about empty. And then I cut another piece of basic white, but this time I embossed it with the cross hatch embossing folder. This is part of the Basics 3D embossing folder set. It's in the online exclusives, only in the online store. You won't see it in a catalog, but it's 3 embossing folders for $30. And I love them all. We'll be using another one of the 3 on my last card as well. So if you like embossing folders, you may be interested in that. And then we're going to do some more die cutting. I've got some black here. And let's see, I've already got this frame, so I'm not going to cut another one of those, but I am going to cut these. And for these, I'm going to be using just the frame part. And before I put my embossing folder away, I am going to stamp on this polished pink. And I'm using black Memento ink. That is my go-to black. I know we have, what do I want to say? What's the permanent one? What's it called? Stays on. But I prefer the Memento. The only time I use Stays On is if I'm watercoloring. All right, watercoloring. Diane, I think you're right. Perfect set for teenagers. Teens might even like to write their own messages inside the bubbles too, if they're the ones making the cards. But certainly these are cards that teens would love to receive, I think. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside once more. And remember, I told you for this card, we're using the frames. So let me poke these out. By the way, if you are somebody that uses magnet sheets to hold your dies, here's a tip for you. When you place the dies on the magnet sheet, place them flat side down, flat side to the magnetic sheet. The reason being, they hold better than if you put them this way. There's less chance of them being pushed off for some odd reason when you've got them flat, the flat side down, okay? They just hold a lot better. Now, to make this card, ooh, I forgot to die cut my hearts, but that's all right. We'll still do it. I just kind of took the frames and moved them around until I was satisfied, and then came up with this design. The fun thing about this too is there's no right or wrong. You just play with the pieces until you feel like they are pleasing to you. And if you enjoy the way they look, others will also. Put this down a little there. Just tiny amounts of glue will work just fine. And then I'm using both the polished pink frame and the solid piece to kind of accent my sentiment. Just a note. Whoops, it stuck to my fingertip. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some hearts as well. I forgot to die cut these when I did the sentiment. So for the hearts, and I love when Stampin' Up! Gives us some doubles of the dies, but especially tiny ones like this. And now I've got that dimensional backing sticking. There we go. So here they give us, if I can hold it so you can see, 2 pairs of hearts. All right, so you'll be able to die cut a total of 4 of them at once. And I'm going to use 3 of the 4 for this card. Always try to remember to put your dies back right away so that you don't have to go searching in your trash can or something like that. And I'm speak from experience when I tell you that. And save the 4th heart because we'll be using it on our 3rd card as well. Now for these, I think the easiest way to put these on is just by adding a little dot of glue where you want them. You can pick them up with your putty tip of your take your pick tool. And there you go. That's the second card. So what do you think? Another one, easy peasy, right? All right, let's go ahead and make our third card. For this one, I'm using black as my card base. Got kind of a fuzzy edge there. Probably time to put a new blade in my cutter. When you see kind of a fuzzy edge like that, that can mean that it's time to change the blade on your paper trimmer. I usually just keep going with my paper trimmer until I make a few cuts and see that the cuts aren't as clean as they normally are. Now I've also cut a piece of polished pink that measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I embossed it again with another embossing folder from the set of 3 that you can find in the online exclusives. So I'll add this, and this is empty. Let me grab another. Okay, I've got this right here. I love how that polished pink really just jumps at you against the black. Okay, and then I have a piece of white that measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and black that measures, let me think a second, 3 inches by 4 inches. 3 inches by 4 inches. And I'm not going to adhere those just yet. We're going to do some stamping and die cutting first. And where's my polished pink scrap? So here we're going to stamp a little bit more for this card. I'm not stamping on the white at all. So first I'm going to stamp the conversation bubble. And then I'm going to stamp Love Ya from the inside, or from the same stamp set. And just putting it right inside there. And then I also want to stamp this exclamation point. Now, before I go on, one thing I want to point out to you is this. Now, when you stamp something solid like this, this is common that will happen. You're using your Stamparatus to stamp this will take care of it. But if you don't have a Stamparatus, just take the coordinating marker and fill in so that you have a more solid image. Okay. So like I said, for solid images, the Stamparatus is great, because if there's not enough ink on the first time, you can just restamp with your Stamparatus and everything lines up perfectly. But if you don't have a Stamparatus, or maybe it's in the Stamparatus is in your future, you haven't bought it yet, this is a good alternative to use your Stampin' Right markers to fill in that solid bit. Okay, So let's die cut these. A lot going on over here. I just love this little exclamation point stamp. It's just fun, you know? And I will die cut that as well. Oops, I was a little off lining that up, but I think it's going to work out okay anyways. I'm not going to worry about it. And then, and I don't need the pink frame, but I'll save it and maybe use it on another card. And remember I said that little heart I was going to use? And this is one of the pieces from the previous card. Okay, that solid piece from the conversation bubble. And I'm going to add that little heart, kind of flipped over on me there, to this black conversation bubble. Let that dry a moment. And then I'm going to put these 3 pieces onto my basic white cardstock. And again, you arrange them in a way that looks pleasing to you, and I'm sure it will be pleasing to others as well. I don't want to press these down too hard just yet, in case I want to move them a bit. And I think I do want to move that larger one up just a tad. And that looks good to me. Now, as I said earlier, the white measures 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and my black is a 1/4 inch larger, 3 inches by 4 inches. So typically, most often, right, we just layer them like that. Looks fabulous, doesn't it? Let me put this on, and then I'll show you just a little twist using the same pieces, but just laying it out a little differently. This card really pops, doesn't it? Here I use the same pieces, but just laid out those layers differently. I twisted that black one underneath just a little bit. So just a fun, different look. All right. So what do you think? We have 3 cards, and I basically showed you how to use the different kinds of dies in the set, right? We used many of the frames and the solid pieces from the inside. We cut a few of just the solid shapes, right, in those hearts. We coordinated stamps with some of the dies. And we also used this one to create an interesting bottom on this polished pink layer here. What do you think? Tony, you like the wonky look, this one? Okay. Sometimes, you just need to change it up. And that's what I was feeling when I made the sample. But I wanted to show you that when you, you cut the layers as you typically would, you can always move them around. You don't have to use them the same way each time. All right. Just a fun way to put a different little twist. Claudia, you like them all. Awesome. Are there any questions about the products you're seeing tonight? I'm going to quickly scroll back here to see if I missed any questions. Oh, wow. People from all over. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I know Claudia's from Kentucky. Awesome. All right. If you would like to have your name put in the drawing to receive one of these 3 cards, please type in the comments now, conversation bubbles. Conversation bubbles. Jean, you like them all? Awesome. Lori, I'm glad you like them too. Hi there, Sharon. Wow, so many of you are on tonight. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. It's always fun for me to be able to share some ideas with you. And I hope that you will, if you have the Conversation Bubbles bundle already, I hope you will give these cards a try. And if not, after tonight's demonstration, perhaps you will want to add this bundle to your shopping list. And I was just going to double check. I think it's in the mini, but let me just, yes, it is. Page 39 of the mini catalog. All right, everybody, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm going to be helping Andrea out a bit in the morning, and Andrea and John and their pups could use your prayers. Mila has a torn ligament and torn meniscus in her back leg, and she is due for surgery. However, when they had the blood work done, something abnormal came up, so now she has to see a cardiologist. They have to take the dog to the cardiologist tomorrow to see if she's can get cleared to have the surgery on her leg. And meantime, she can't put any weight on it. And it's been, I think it happened last Wednesday maybe, or last Thursday. She was fine one day and next morning she wasn't. And also, if you don't mind, a prayer for my sister. She's had a tough start to her week. But, Andrea and Joan were here with me. Andrea was working today and we were going to get lunch. And I said, let's invite Aunt Joan over. So she came over as well. And we just had a little powwow and had some lunch together. And by the time we were finished, we were all laughing, and that's a good thing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. If you're watching this on replay, I'm so happy you're watching. And no Facebook Live on Friday. I will be doing a Facebook Live on Monday at 4, and I'm planning to do a technique. So I hope you will join me for that at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. Take care and happy stamping.